Welcome to ABG, Asian Boss Girl, a podcast for the modern day Asian American woman. My name is Helen.
I'm Janet.
And I'm Mel.
This is episode 50. 50.
Wow, we hit 50, ladies.
It also happens to be Miss Helen's birthday today.
Oh, it's my birthday?
On December 5th.
Yeah.
It's my birthday?
December 5th. And what are we talking about today?
So today we're actually going to be talking about sex. So in light of Helen's birthday, here you go.
It's your birthday, so I know you want to ride out.
Okay.
If we only go to my house.
Okay, that's not played the whole thing, so we'll get caught for issues.
Thanks for that. Is that my present?
Not maybe your boyfriend gave you.
Wow. wow.
Yes.
The awkward laugh.
Today we are going to be talking about sex. So this is a topic that we get quite a few requests written in about. And it's something that I think a lot of us do maybe talk about with our girlfriends behind closed doors, but maybe not as openly sometimes because of usually our cultural upbringing. It makes it feel a little taboo to discuss, right? But if you're in your 20s, if you're in your 30s, if you're a young adult, you're probably having sex. So,
Or you're going to.
Or you're going to.
Or you're
if you're-
religious and not.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
And that's okay. But maybe you still want to know about it,
Yes.
right? So we wanted to take the opportunity of this episode to share a little bit of our personal experiences with sex.
Six.
Yeah. And just also keep in mind, this is our personal experience. We're not saying you should do one thing or the other. I think everyone has their own journey when it comes to discovering themselves sexually.
You know what's actually pretty funny? So earlier today, we all had lunch and we talk a lot about our past and our exes. And every time you guys mention one of your exes, I'm always like, I can't picture this guy, you know? And I like make up this like person in my head of what
Yeah.
he looks like. So I had this genius thought of let's put together a PowerPoint presentation with pictures of all of our exes and label them by the number of years that you dated them and also the age of when you dated them. So now we have this collage of all of our ex-boyfriends.
In a PowerPoint deck. because it's
Which we
Miss
also
Helen.
present in a very business manner.
Yes.
This is blank. I did him from da-da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah, we went through the process of presenting. Each person presented their slide that walked through the timeline.
Janet's like, and to your top left. But it's funny because you look at it and you're like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, who have you had sex with there?
We did talk about, who we prefer in bed and all these things. So I think this is a good jumping point to get right into it. So in terms of sex, what was your expectations of sex? Obviously, I think we kind of mentioned this before that I think being Asian, we don't really talk about sex with our parents. I don't think I was really educated on sex, right? So for me, the act of sex came from movies for me. So I would watch movies like The Notebook and all these like romantic movies. So that's why I thought
rom-coms.
sex would be like, oh, super romantic and all like all these things. I had no idea what it meant, you know? So that was like my expectation of what sex was.
Yeah.
Actually, no, I thought people just took off their clothes, looked at each other, and then slept in bed together or something like that.
So you saw all the like feeling aspects of it, the emotional part, but you didn't really understand like physically how things worked.
Yeah, I didn't for me as a young kid, I didn't understand the appeal of that. I was like, what is that? Why would you want to do that?
Like, why would you want to get naked?
Exactly.
Yeah. And like see each other.
And
Yeah,
I thought
know.
penises are so gross
Yeah.
as a kid.
When's the
But-
first time you saw a penis?
I don't know. Maybe like accidentally like a family member or like,
Oh, okay.
you know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Not like a creepy
that's
uncle,
true.
right?
Yeah, I don't know. Like,
If you had like cousins or
like
you know.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. Like, because when you're young, you might like
Yeah.
all shower together at one time or
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just grossed out already just talking about
Your cousins.
No, but okay, how about you guys? Do you remember your first initial thought of what sex was?
Oh, I mean, in terms of just like human anatomy, I saw like there was like some porn stash like below my parents' bed.
Yeah.
And so I remember seeing that. It'd be funny, my sister's listening right now. I wonder if she saw the same because we never talked about it. Taboo. But yeah, I remember like the first time seeing a vagina, like an adult vagina that was like hairy. And I was just like, because I was young, so I was like, oh, that's weird. Like,
Yeah.
am I gonna have that? And I
Yeah.
didn't know what it was or why it was there, and maybe it was like a porn thing to have hair down there. So that was like the first time I saw that. And I think the first time I saw a penis was in those like AOL private chats.
What? Seriously?
Yeah, someone sent me a dick pic. I didn't know what it was.
Baby Helen getting a dick pic.
Yeah, I was so
gosh.
young, and I was like, "What part of the body is that?" That was like a weird finger, like a like a really close up.
Your finger's really messed up, man.
Yeah, I was like, "Why is it so like?"
Swollen.
Yeah, I didn't know what it was, but it was like very curved up, and I was like, "Oh, that's interesting." And then when I realized what it was, I was really grossed out.
Yeah.
But that was my first experience.
I think, yeah, I mean, if it's just human anatomy, I did see, like, I think family members and then my parents, like, sometimes they would, when I was younger, we would walk around kind of freely.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I think it's just a
Yeah,
comfort
yeah,
thing.
when you're younger, right? But then in terms of, like, understanding sex, like, I think that was through, like, HBO or, like, randomly, because we had cable,
actually,
and then-
you're right.
And
You're
you flip
right.
through the channels and just then you're like, what is happening?
Yeah.
That's like Sex in the City.
But more like the ads, right? The channels that had
yeah,
like
yeah.
XXX something.
Yeah, yeah.
And you would flip over and you're like, ooh, I can't watch this, but I
Yeah.
am.
Yeah.
yeah.
That is true. That is true. I didn't know what a virgin meant, like what it meant to be a virgin. I remember my best friend's brother was like, "Hey Mel, do you know what a virgin is?" And I was like, "Yeah, Jimmy, I am not a virgin because I know what sex is." I thought the terminology of virgin means like if you
Just
know what
knowing.
sex is,
Yeah.
that means you're not a virgin. So I thought like I was super cool. Like that's when people get naked. And he was like, "Mel, that is not what a virgin means. What not being a virgin means." I'm like, "Oh." So I was like educated real quickly in middle school.
Well, did you guys have like the sex talk with your parents?
Oh, actually, no. Oh my God, this is so awkward. But my mom never gave me the sex talk. My aunt did. And it was so awkward.
Oh.
I would just like be over at her place. And I think I was probably like maybe in middle school or high school. And she'll just be like, "Oh, Melody, are you know how to protect?" I'm just like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
And I felt so awkward. She gave it to me multiple times.
Did you know what it was the first time she brought it up?
I think I knew.
Yeah.
At that time, at that point, I knew what it was. And there's one time I think I found a pack of condoms at her house, and then she's like, "Oh, I use you know to protect yourself." And then just like you don't want to know that your aunt and uncle are doing these kind of things. It's just
Yeah,
like kind
yeah.
of gross.
Yeah.
Wait, did she actually, like, describe to you? No.
She's just like, "Oh, you have to protect yourself." Like that. That's all she said. And I was like, "Okay, got it." Brushing her off. So I don't want to hear this
Yeah,
anymore. One distinct memory I remember in high school was in freshman year. I was in algebra 2 class. I was like pretty good at math, and so my classmates were older than me, and all the girls would huddle together and like girl talk. And so the sophomores, juniors, and seniors were like, "Oh my God, like yeah, like I had sex last night." Or they would talk about giving blowjobs, and I literally was so grossed out. And that was when
Why
I
would
was like,
you want to do that?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
why would you want to do that to someone? That's gross.
Like that's where they pee out of.
Yeah, and it's just like you know what I mean. Like I think at that point I knew what a penis was, and I was like, why would you want to do anything with that
Yeah, yeah.
anatomy? Like just yuck.
Yeah.
So that was my, I guess, like mental state before entering a sexual relationship with someone.
So innocent.
I know.
And now look at you.
Excuse me?
Dicks all over. Just
That's not true. But do you guys remember being grossed out at the idea of sex before, or you always like liked it?
I don't remember being grossed out. Actually, Janet, you mentioning like the channels that you flip through, like
Yeah,
that
yeah.
totally was my first time hearing about it. But even like when you're walking around, it's like, oh, make sure you cover up. Oh, you can't talk about your boobs. And so like it was always like you knew that you had to like hide these parts of you. My parents never gave me the sex talk. It was more just like, don't do it, right? And it's like it implies all of it.
Yeah.
And then I'm just like, okay, I kind of know what you're talking about. They knew I knew what they were thinking about too, but it was always like this like forbidden fruit. It was kind of just like you can't talk about it, don't touch it, none of that. But I remember like watching like American Pie, just like I remember
yes.
distinctly. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, that's how guys like satisfy themselves. And but I was like, what about the girls though? You know, so there was never anything about any discussion about like orgasms or anything like that. But it was always like how to satisfy a man. Even in, I think we had like the anatomy, like banana, condiment of banana talk.
sex
right?
ed in
yeah,
school,
sex
yeah.
ed in school. I forget when, but that was like the first time hearing about it. But it was always around just like how a man gets, gets hard.
That's true. We don't talk about the women.
Actually, I mean, a lot of the porn though, there is like it's like lesbian porn.
Yeah.
So if you're like when flipping through channels and stuff, and that, I mean, that like hyper sexualizes women in a different way. But I don't know. I think for me, I asked you, Mel, about like if your conversations with your parents, like if they actually describe what it is, but more it was just in the context of don't do it, right? So for both of you, they never like explain what it is. And so that was my experience too. It's like it was like my first boyfriend, and my dad was my dad. This is awkward. And he was just trying to like get a point across, like make sure you're protecting yourself. And I was like, this conversation's not happening. We don't need that.
yeah.
Don't worry. But yeah, in terms of understanding the mechanics or like physically what happens. I think it was just through school.
Yeah.
And school and then porn or like
Yeah.
on TV, which is two like really, one is like super just like scientific or like body parts coming together, and then the other is like super dramatic and like
True, yeah.
sexual. So you don't really,
Have a clear understanding of
Yeah.
Or I think it's like the kids also talking about and like making like finger in
Yeah.
a hole thing.
Yeah.
I remember not knowing at all. Like, what are you doing? Like, what is that like signaling?
Yeah.
You know? So immature.
You bring up that good point, Janet, about like your dad bringing it up. I'll dive into this story later as we talk about our first sexual encounters.
Experience.
But my mom, when I had my first boyfriend, my mom did bring up sex to me then. Like I never had the sex talk prior. So I do actually want to hear about your first times having sex. Like, do you guys remember your first time and how old you guys were?
I do remember. I hope you all remember your first time.
I remember.
My first time was when I was pretty young. Now that I think about it, I think I was 16. Yeah, I think it was junior year. It was actually before then. I had tried something with someone else who was also he's not on the list. He didn't
Okay.
make the list.
I was like, I didn't see a guy on
he was
this
an
I know
official.
he wasn't. He was, but it was like sure. I guess I should put him on there. But I remember like the first time we were like intimate in bed, but I also knew I didn't like want it from him
Oh,
for my
interesting.
first time.
Yeah.
So I remember we like got close to like getting there, but I would always like shift a little bit so that it would always miss. What? I never told you guys this.
No, it's like this is like the hyper version of when a guy leans in to give you a kiss, you do the whole like on
Yeah.
like the cheek. This is like to another level. Holly.
Yeah. But also like I think you're young. It's also like very like tight and it's very like you're just kind of like shifting and like dodging.
Just like
That is hilarious.
hula dancing in bed.
Was it at the end? You're like, okay, we're not gonna fight.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I was just like, no, I don't want to. So I actually, looking back now, just thinking about it now, I'm just like, wow, that was a very empowering move for such a young person because he was also like older, a couple of years older, so it was like upperclassman-ish, and I was just like, yeah, that was the right move to not have done anything there. But my first time was with one of my first boyfriends, not gonna say who, but his uncle had an empty apartment. And we had already like made out and we were already going out for like a couple of months. So we went to the empty apartment. We used to like make out at a friend's place. I remember a friend's house. Like we would always gather there in Dorchester and we would just sit in our friend's room and he had a bunk bed. And so the guy who owned the house, he would be making out with his girlfriend at the top bunk. So I had my first kiss like on the bottom bunk with this
With another
guy.
couple in the room.
Yeah, with another couple in the room like at the top
This
bunk.
is such a
making
high
out.
school moment where like all the couples just come to make out.
Yeah, exactly. Where can we make out after school?
Yeah.
You know? So we had already like been heavily making out. So we ended up at his uncle's place, and I don't know if we knew that like that was the intention that we were gonna have sex. And I think I was his first time too. So it was like both of our first times. But there was like peanut butter involved.
Wait, what?
It was.
Wait. This story is taking a very interesting.
Wait, there was peanut butter involved. I'm not gonna say what, but
You just said peanut butter.
I mean, I'm not gonna say what we did with the peanut butter, but.
Wait, why peanut butter?
Is that the only thing you had? You didn't know lube?
I can't. Am I sharing
Or
too
like
much? I think I'm sharing
chocolate or like I don't know, wax or peanut
I mean,
butter.
I don't know.
I
It
think
was-
honestly, I will share in the fact that in high school, when you start doing things, you're a little bit more kinky. 'Cause
Exactly. Or
You're just exploring stuff.
you're
you know?
exploring, and
Yeah.
it just seemed.
It seemed like the right.
You're like, yeah, it's sticky and all these things. Okay, anyways, go ahead. You have peanut butter.
There was and then yeah, the first time it was like my senses were so heightened because I was like,
Yeah.
oh my god, my clothes are off, and like, oh my god, like his clothes, you know.
Yeah.
And I remember it hurting, but I didn't enjoy it. Like I didn't enjoy it. And then the second time, third time, it was like great, and we even like skipped school a couple times just to like have sex.
Like a bunch of rabbits.
Yeah, no, I mean when you're a teenager and it's like, oh my gosh, like I feel comfortable with this guy and he feels comfortable with me. It was like, you know, like one of our very first relationships with someone else, and so it was like a very exploratory too. So it's like, let's try things and like, you know, against the wall and like doing all these different things. Okay. Just to, you know, because we're curious. And at that time, you've already watched like some porn and stuff, so you're like, oh, let's try that, you know. So it was fun.
So you had a pretty like, what'd you say, an overall positive first experience?
I would say so. Yeah.
Okay.
If it was the other person, I would probably have been pretty sad. Yeah. But my dodging is pretty good.
That is hilarious, by the way. I just envision like, yeah. But also like, I don't want to envision that at the same time.
Yeah. Don't.
But I think for me, I could kind of relate to Helen. Like, I actually lost
Yeah.
my virginity at a really young age, too. I was 16. I was a sophomore. And my boyfriend was 1 year older. So it was with someone I actually got in a relationship with. I was with him for 2.5 years. So just to give you guys context, I think at that point I was like, oh, like when you start being physical, you're like, okay, I see the appeal now to like
Yeah.
this. Before, I was like, ooh, dick. But then, no, literally, I was like, ew, that's so gross.
Not swollen finger.
But then, yeah, we started being like, physically intimate. And then I wasn't his first, though. So I was his second. And he was my first. I think at that point I knew I was comfortable letting him be my first. A lot of things, like my first kiss, my first, like, everything. And I remember I also had a bunk bed situation. My ex-boyfriend shared a bed with his grandpa.
Oh my god, this is taking a
No.
interesting direction.
His grandpa
Okay.
wasn't home during the time we had
Yeah, I hope
sex.
so. Yeah.
Yeah. So, of course. And so we were on the top bunk, and I remember we finally did it, and it was so anticlimactic for me. And I remember feeling like, oh, like it was definitely, it hurt,
letdown.
Yeah.
and when it happened, I was like, is that it? Like, is
Yeah.
that, not saying like I wasn't satisfied, it's more like, I thought I'd feel like a change. Like, oh my God. Like, whatever. And then afterwards, I think I was so overwhelmed by the feeling of honest disappointment. The first time I started crying. And he was like, what's wrong? Like, he was really caring throughout the whole process.
Yeah.
And I was like, I guess it's just not what I expected it to be. Like, I thought it'd be like the movies, like with candles and like really romantic. So I really romanticized the act of sex. And so
Actually, so when this happened, so you didn't plan.
it wasn't planned.
Okay. Were there other times where you guys were making out and it kind of almost went there and like, or how did?
I don't remember. I remember like the first like being intimate with him, but I remember our first time having sex and all the other times.
So it kind of
afterwards.
just like happened.
It did.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I think once you go over that hump of like, oh, that's not what I expected, like, yes, then I joined Helen on the whole, let's explore this kind of
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
And yeah, we play with ice cubes. I just think you just want to try different things.
Yeah.
And I did feel super comfortable with him. And yeah, like, I think in high school, you're very like, oh, like, what is lube? And like,
Yeah.
what is a vibrator ring? Just all these little things to see. And I feel like you kind of like play into the kinky, the act of doing it versus like it truly enjoying what it was. Like, honestly, I didn't enjoy all those like fun toys and stuff.
Yeah.
For me, like now I'm just like, I would be like, no, let's not do that. But yeah, I think having sex with my first boyfriend, it was very exploratory. But this,
Was it fun after?
it was
the first
super
time?
fun. Like,
Yeah.
you're like, God, I feel like I was such a kink in high school. Like now I'm just like, let me a little different. But like sex for me, like, it felt like such a new thing. Like I wanted to do it here and in different places, and like let's do it like in the car, like kind of little things like that. But I may get touch about this later if we go there. But I think we were in 2.5 year relationship, and obviously our relationship took a different it started like going downhill. So I was losing interest, and then like I think for me like sex became more of an act out of
like obligation.
versus what I wanted to do towards the end. And like I think now I don't regret what I did, but like I think now if I recognize this now, it would be different. Maybe it's a sign of like I don't think this relationship is going the way I want it to, and I don't think you should ever do things out of obligation. If you enjoy the process, you should. I never felt like I was being taken advantage of, but there's sometimes just like, oh, I don't want to have sex, I'll just give you a blowjob instead, like kind of things like that.
Yeah.
It affects me kind of now too, but I guess I'll talk about that later. But yeah, I was 16 overall,
Wait, let's talk about that now. How did that affect?
like being freaky.
Or you said that kind of, it seemed like having sex out of obligation sometimes, like that affected or colored.
I think sometimes I wish, but you're young, so I don't think I really know how to explore my body as I would want to now. Like I never orgasm in high school. I didn't know what the fuck it was. Like
Were you able to yourself?
yes, I always knew how to. But then with him, I just didn't. I think something was holding me back, and then I think ever since then, that mental block has been there since. I don't think it was on him or anything. He didn't do anything
right.
wrong. It's more like maybe I felt like, oh, I can't enjoy it 100% anymore, and so the 10% couldn't bring me over the tip to like come or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think it happened. Obviously, you're talking to a lot of your girlfriends, you realize like to get an orgasm from like penetration is really difficult for some women, and I think I fall under that bracket. So I think not. I remember moments when we had sex, and he was like, "I want you to come." I was like, I can't get there.
Ooh, that's extra pressure if he's like, I want you to.
But of course, all guys want you to come.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah.
thing.
But if they say
want the
it-
satisfaction also.
yeah.
that you
Yeah,
can,
but I think for him it was like a caring. He was very caring
see,
about
I see.
it, and yeah. So I think for me, ever since then, like I remember that feeling of there's a mental block, and so that has trickled into my adulthood.
got it. Yeah.
But there's one thing I do want to add to this, like my first experience, because you guys asked me like, did your parents give you the sex talk? And my mom never gave me the sex talk prior to going into like sex, but I remember she knew I had a boyfriend, and he would come over, we'd come over and stuff. And there was one time she was dropping me off at school and she turned to me and she goes, "Are you protecting yourself?"
How do they know?
I think parents
No, you're like spending the
yeah.
night, like late night, and it's you could assume things. And like, I can't lie to my mom.
Yeah.
Just my relation with her. And I knew what she was implying. I was like, I was trying to brush it off. And she's like, she looked at me and she goes, I can't stop you from doing the things you're doing, but the best thing I can do is to protect you. And so I'm gonna go with you and I'm gonna get you birth control.
Oh,
She was the one that got me birth control when
great.
I was 16.
I think that's really important that parents actually talk about this stuff,
Yeah.
or at least try and educate their kids, even if it's still like not really touching on the
Yeah.
subject.
Right.
But it's important. It's very important too. That's really cool that
yeah.
your mom did that.
Yeah, so I think that's something I really applaud my mom for doing. I mean, that is her Americanized side. I don't know. That's how she is.
Because
And-
she's not saying like don't do it.
Don't
She's
do
like,
it.
okay, I guess you're doing
Yeah.
it. Let's go and
Yeah.
protect
What
you.
can we do about this?
Yeah. And I remember this is all encompassing my first relationship. I was extra paranoid and I actually had a pregnancy scare. That really
Oh, when
fucked.
you were a teenager?
Yeah. It's just like, and the thing is as dumb as like, I was on birth control, I was using protection, like all this stuff. But then, I was like, oh, pre-cum, maybe there's like, I was like, oh no, there's semen in there.
Yeah,
And like,
yeah.
what is this stuff? And like, I just like, I got into my head really quick. And then I was so paranoid, I went out to get like pregnancy test and I was negative. But still, like that wasn't enough for me. I was so nervous to the point where I actually asked my mom, I said, I'm really scared right now. I know this could be nothing, but I don't know. I just want to be safe, but I want to just get my blood tested to see if I'm pregnant.
Wow. That's really like incredible to hear that you can talk to your mom about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely awkward, but she's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And she took me, and it was negative, but she's like very like, I go like,
Take a hanger, smack you.
no. She's like, she actually never did that. She's like, oh, you have to be careful. Like, don't. If you want to do this, kind of like that, kind of like disappointment, but also like, I'm going to take you regardless.
Yeah. I mean that's the
That-
reaction that
You would hope
you would hope for her to have.
Yeah.
Not
So-
like, yeah, great.
Yeah, like, yeah, let's go. No, but I felt like a very like, fuck, I'm disappointing my mom to this. Like, I
Yeah,
shouldn't have
yeah.
done that. But
Right.
like, but even looking back, I was like, it wasn't like he like came in me. I was like, oh, yeah, I'm pregnant. It's just like, oh no, this little pre-cum. But then I think with all those like, seeing how my mom navigated dealing with me with my first relationship, with my first sexual encounter, all these things, she was a great mom and how she approached it. So that really is just like my whole first
Yeah.
time
Yeah.
experience. So yeah, I mean,
That sounds nice. You were supported then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not too lost in this weird first experience.
Yeah.
because it
Go
is
APM.
I think us now, like being women, entering the age of like thinking about having children, having daughters, like how would you navigate this conversation? So I think having that with my mom is like, okay, I think I kind of have an idea
Yeah. Of how you want to
approach
your
this with
children.
my daughter if I were to have one. I think me and Helen fall in the similar boat where we were kind of in high school, a little young. We started exploring sex at a younger age.
Yeah.
Jana, you have a different experience, right?
I do, yeah. I was not sexually active until like my mid 20s. So I did have a boyfriend in high school, and we're high school into college, and we were physical, and we did almost everything, or like just heavy makeout and like dry humping, right? So
Is there a reason why you stopped going further than that?
he was more experienced than I was, and he was always very like cognizant about kind of like not letting it get to that point. I think he was always trying to like protect me and not
that's really
not take
nice.
advantage.
I think most guys at
Oh
age,
wait,
like,
sorry. I'm looking at the PowerPoint. Which one is he?
the top
First
left.
one.
Oh, okay, got it, okay.
He was always religious, but I think kind of like became more and more religious near the end of our relationship.
I see.
So yeah, and then it wasn't until like I kind of started working when I was in like my early mid 20s, kind of similar to Helen. Before the actual guy that I had my first experience with, I started kind of dating casually this other guy, and we got really physical very quickly, and he had had sex before and I had not, and I also felt like kind of uncomfortable, but I
Yeah.
was like exploring and trying to figure it out, and he was the first guy that I was like naked with and
Yeah.
like, you know, getting kind of like further.
You did a little dodgy dodge.
Yeah, I did the dodge, and I still remember this one time where he was like, "Come on, just like a little bit." I was like, "Dude, a little. It's either in or it's out." Like, what the fuck? There's no, you know, especially with someone who's like a virgin. Come on, there's
Yeah.
no. So in hindsight, yes, I'm really glad that I didn't
Yeah.
let that happen.
Cheers to you.
Cheers. We have some glasses of wine
we
for
need
this episode. So then after him, I actually started dating someone. We were in a relationship for probably I don't remember when in our relationship we started like having sex, but he was someone that I felt really comfortable with and was also quite experienced and was older and was just very like emotionally, he had like really high EQ.
That's hot.
That is hot. Yes.
Our like first time or whatever, like, we actually tried like multiple times and I had some like anatomically it was really painful for me.
yeah.
And to the point where actually I was like, I went to the gynecologist and like you know, was like, hey,
Do
what-
I have a vagina?
Yeah.
Is it down there?
Yeah, like which hole? No, I think in hindsight you're anxious and you're nervous, right? So you're like not like kind of-
Tensed up.
You're tensing up, yeah. But it was our actual like first time. It was very romantic. Like he had bought flowers, there were candles, we went to dinner.
Wait, did he plan? He planned
Yeah,
it.
you planned it. Then.
Yeah. So this is and so that was all like him. He was probably almost like more of a quote unquote girl about it than I was, because he's like, I know that this is like that it's not my first time, but like I want it to feel like this is like our first time together. And I was just like, yeah. So
That is like
I feel like I was really spoiled.
get it in today.
That is super sweet.
I
That
feel
is
really
really
spoiled from that experience.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, all future men that date Janet, just know you have high
Every
bar to
time
meet.
though,
Yeah, every time, 1 flower per time.
she better have a garden. I'm just kidding. Wow, this is so. I think it sounds like, you know, we all have different experiences, you know, with our first times. Wow, it varies. It's really interesting.
varies, yes.
Helen was a freak. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I was a young, curious. You too.
Okay, fine. And then there's like,
And then I had like the roses and candles.
Me and Helen got the bunk bed stories. And
Yeah.
then Janet got the roses and all these things.
You're like every parent's dream child, mid 20s. Oh, we are so excited to be partnering up with Every Lashes. Every Lashes is created by fellow ABG Paulina Lay, who was inspired to create false lashes suitable for her Asian eyes after having a hard time finding ones that fit well for her. Every Lashes strives to design lashes that look natural and enhance all eye shapes and sizes, including and especially for Asian eyes.
Their philosophy is that we should be able to wear eyelashes every day, not just on special occasions. So their lashes are designed to be wearable and comfortable for everyday use. I usually prefer a fairly minimal makeup look and don't typically wear false lashes, but I tried out the Sunday brunch lashes and they were light, subtle, and perfect for a daytime or nighttime look.
And for me personally, I'm a huge fan of falsies, and Every Lashes 9 to 5 3D lashes have been my go-to pair. The 9 to 5 3D lashes look dramatic but feel so natural on and fall under their 3D faux mink line. Their lashes are the added oomph I need to leave the house feeling so hot and go well with my daytime and nighttime makeup. To get your pair today, use our code ABG for 15% off. Again, it's ABG for 15% off. I have a question for you guys. Like, when you guys were having sex for the first time, like, were you guys using protection?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Were you on birth control? Or were you guys on
No, condoms.
condoms?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
How about you?
Oh, I was on birth control.
Yeah.
Oh, so you actually started birth control like
Almost instantly because my mom asked me kind of right away. But yeah, I definitely used condoms like right away, and then moved over to birth control. And then
Yeah.
I was actually on birth control for quite a while. Like I was on it for 4 years. Like 2 years after we broke up, I was still on it because it regulated my period.
Yeah,
But then I got off of it. But yeah, I just want to ask you guys about your protection, style. for your
Yeah,
first time.
that's important.
It is
and
important.
Yeah, I didn't know. I think I started birth control like late in college.
Oh, really?
Or I didn't even like know how to use it. And like,
Yeah,
what
yeah.
are all these like colors and
Yeah.
dates and what is it
Like,
gonna
oh
do to
my
my
God.
body?
It's like I missed it. Am I be pregnant? Like all these little things.
Yeah.
But I think now since we talked about our first times, I would love to hear about like we should go into like now, like nowadays. I think you learn a lot about yourself, like and your sexual preferences through like different encounters. Like obviously looking at our like slideshow right now, the X Factor we called it. We probably have like different experiences with all these men, right, sexually or whether or not. I think it's really interesting to talk about like I guess our sexual behavior style, or like what is our current relationship status and how that affects
Yes.
our sexual behaviors, right?
Yeah, like what's your relationship with the person you're having sex with?
Yeah.
Is this a boyfriend? Is it a person you're casually dating? Is it someone you met at the bar randomly? for
Yeah,
one
I mean,
night?
it's like, are you hooking like a one night stand? Are you, do you have friends with benefits? So I think it'd be kind of like interesting to talk about it.
Who wants to start?
I mean, I'm the boring one here because I have a boyfriend.
I
So
always had a boyfriend though.
I have actually. It was interesting. I'm looking at my slide right now, but I have had a boyfriend since I was 16. So 16 and 18, my first one. I only skipped the age of 19 that I didn't have a boyfriend, and then 20 through now. So serial monogamous.
I'm curious though, because like how does that affect your like sexual, like I guess like
Your sex drive? Or
or no, like I don't know actually, because I think for me and you, I've never been a serial monogamous.
yeah.
Monogamer. I I don't know. It's like,
Except for your first boyfriend, right?
Yeah.
Where you said it started feeling like an obligation.
kind of, yeah. Or like, I guess, how does sex change when you're with someone for a long time?
Oh,
How do you keep it interesting?
does it
Is,
vary
still,
on-
is
oh, it's
peanut butter still your?
Or does it
it's not
depend on
peanut,
the,
it's something. No, just kidding.
does it depend on the guy then?
I think it does. I have never like strayed or like wanted to casually date. That's never been something that's in like my blood that I'm like, oh my gosh, I hate just dating this one guy. I'm so curious about like
Yeah.
all these other people, because when I'm in a relationship, I'm like in it and I'm like, we
Yeah.
getting married or else this is not it, right?
Yeah.
So even if the sex might not have been good, obviously I was with them for like the personality or something, and I'm like, this is like more worth it than like going out and pursuing other people
Yeah.
just for like my sexual charge or something like
Yeah.
that. I think my sexual activity or my like I it is very like high libido, I guess, right? Libido is pretty high, so it's not like I'm like just low libido and I don't care about sex.
Yeah.
But it's more just like I think the magnitude of a relationship and the potential, I focus on that more than I focus on like the
Sex
libido
itself, yeah.
part. For some people, it like kind of went a little like dry, but I also never really care too much about it. And with like current boyfriend, this is weird to talk about because it's so current. It's been like always good. I'll just
Like you guys have
leave it at that.
I
compatible.
think your chemistry is
sexual-
really-
yeah.
Yeah, the chemistry is always there. And I'm always like, oh no, what if like one day this goes away, you
Yeah.
know? But and I've worried about that since like day one or whatever, and it hasn't. So I'm like, okay, I think we have something good here.
Yeah. That's actually a wonder too, because like two things. Like in a long term relationship, I think it's easy for sex to become a routine. Right.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we'll do this position, then we'll do over here, and it just feels like you kind of know the choreography to what your sex is gonna do.
choreography,
It's true though. Because I remember feeling like that with my first boyfriend. I'm like, okay, we always start here, we do that, we do the
Yeah.
same thing, and at one point it's like it's not exciting for me.
Right, right.
You know, but I do wonder if sexual chemistry is a thing. Like, do you need?
Yeah.
But I do talking to a lot of women. It's just like I think you can have sexual chemistry with someone, but that doesn't necessarily build a good relationship.
Absolutely.
Right. Of course.
know?
Yeah.
Like the foundation other than sex has to be very strong if you want to have a lasting relationship. If it's
Yeah.
just purely based on like lust, then it's lust, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do think sex can play a very like not an important role in a relationship, but I feel like it has to be something there. It can't be like
Like a spark. Yeah.
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 No, I felt that with one of my boyfriends where it eventually just sort of like died down. And I think I mentioned this before, but I remember one time like he kissed me and I was like, I feel like I'm kissing a brother.
Oh,
you know, or like
Wait, which one is that? I'm
yeah.
looking at your chart.
I'll tell you later.
Okay.
Or like a best friend, right? Like
yeah.
someone who knows you so deeply.
Yeah.
And it's like a beautiful relationship. But then if there's that sexual spark isn't there, then it's like, oh,
If you don't get a little bit tingly.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's like no tingle.
Yeah.
You need the tingle.
But it also sounds like you need to have a connection with someone to have sex.
Yeah.
You can't just be like, hey stranger, let's have sex.
Yeah. I mean, there's only one person that I did have sex with that was not my boyfriend.
Yeah.
I don't like do like the hookup thing.
Yeah. But you're kind of dating though.
Yeah, but I didn't really have time to either. But yeah, there was one time I already knew that it wasn't gonna be like a long lasting thing. So it was like I was a little older then, so I was just like, I'm just gonna do this thing. Like it's like college Helen, you know?
Yeah.
The things that I was supposed to do in college that I didn't get to do. Like might as well, you know?
Yeah.
And so I allowed myself the freedom to do that. But then afterwards I would always feel kind of like icky because I was like, oh,
It's not you.
He gets to experience my body and he doesn't deserve it or something like that. Body's my temple, right?
No, I actually totally relate to that.
Yeah. So that and then after that I was like, okay, I don't need that. How about
It's
you,
interesting how, because like I feel like I have had more like casual like sex, like there's my brain will say that like, oh, my body is my temple and I shouldn't allow them, but then there's the flip side where I'm kind of like at a certain point I'm getting enjoyment out of it too.
True, yeah.
And so, you know, but there's like no right or wrong. I think it's kind of like it's your personal attitude for
Absolutely.
it, right?
Yeah. I'm sure if I was dating more and I was like, oh yeah, I'm getting something out of it and I feel empowered and I'm learning more about like my sexual behavior and what I like and what I
your
don't like and what
preferences, yeah.
and what these guys like if they, you know, touch me a certain way and I'm like, ooh, I like that. At least I
Yeah,
learned
yeah.
a little bit from that. I could see myself thinking like, okay, this is like worthwhile of my
Right,
time.
right.
You know, it's mutual too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how about you ladies? You both don't have a boyfriend. We all know this by now. Have you had sex recently?
I like Jen and I are both Jen and I are both looking at each other like, okay, so who wants to start first? Helen, you decide who starts.
Let's go with Janet.
Okay. Janet. Have a sip of your
I'm gonna
wine.
have some more wine. How do I tell?
I'll start it off for you.
Okay.
Okay, so Janet has had she remember in the beginning of this year, 2019, Janet did like a little dry spell with her wine. she had a much longer dry spell with her vagina.
My vagina.
Actually, it has aged nicely over the few years.
Yeah, it's aged nicely. And then this past week, it will have been a couple
Yeah.
weeks now by the time this episode is released.
Yeah.
But you know, she got it done.
I mean, I think when we talk about kind of like casual dating culture, yeah, the last I'm like 34, so the last like decade, I've done a lot of kind of just casual dating, and I've done a lot of exploring in someone that maybe I'm like seeing a couple of times for like a couple months to like being in a city for one night and having like a one night stand. So yeah, I don't know. I think I need more prompting.
No, you know what it is? Here's the thing. There's no shame with this. Like, Jana, I feel like if you're using this is how you explore yourself and explore other people, that's what you do. It's fine. There's consent on both sides. Then you do you.
Yeah.
You
I think
know?
as long as you're protecting yourself, like physically, for the young ladies that are listening out there, protecting yourself physically is important. It's not just about pregnancy, but it's also about like STDs and things like that.
Yes.
So make sure that even if you are on birth control, you're using condoms or other forms.
And get tested regularly.
And get tested regularly. But I would say that there is kind of a funky emotional aspect to it. Because when you're not like intimately involved with someone, then sex almost becomes much more just like a physical pleasure or a physical act. And that can be both positive and negative, I guess. I don't know.
I could see that.
Yeah.
It's like the positive is like you're able to detach and just enjoy the physical act of having sex and kind of just exploring what you like with your body. But then the flip side is like, oh, I don't feel anything.
Like I remember kind of just laying there and I was like, this is happening. And like kind of feeling a little disengaged from it.
Yeah.
There's a sense of it that you feel like a little disappointed, but then you also kind of feel like, oh, it's a little bit empowering that I'm not like so wrapped up in this and that I feel like in control of myself and my
You kind of feel, here's the thing,
inclinations or
you
whatever.
do feel empowered sometimes when you know, like, I'm able to disconnect with this and treat it for what it is.
Yeah.
It's a different feeling,
Did you feel more so like you had your needs filled? It's been a while.
Yeah. I mean, well, see, here's the thing. I think when you don't really know the person really well, it's hard for there to be real physical pleasure. And maybe this is because like they say for women, a lot of it is emotional. Although I have had one guy where like we didn't really know each other and it was really good. But I think that's just like anatomically we fit together really well.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, it will be like, okay. I think for me, that experience was more good in the fact that we had a really great date. It was like a 5 to 6 hour date. We, like had a really good conversation. We had glasses of wine and then it ended with that. So it's like the package of the experience of going out on a date and connecting with a person romantically in that way was like really enjoyable.
Yeah.
But the sex, I mean, for that particular, I hope he's not listening.
Tell him.
It was, yeah.
Wait, it was a bad or
Hey. All right, tell us later.
Yeah. How about you, Mel? You've actually flip it a little. Well, because I'm talking about the spectrum of like not really. It's like a stranger, right?
Yeah.
And you've had some experiences where it's like maybe you have like a friendship,
Yeah, let me drink this real
Like a
quick.
slightly
friends
deeper
with
connection.
benefits, yeah.
Than like a date.
Whew, I guess it's my turn. All right, so I think I relate to Helen a lot when she says, like, I do view my body as like a temple. I'm not naked a lot with people. So I think for me, like, my body is so sacred in the sense that, like, I don't want to share that with everyone. So I think with that, I've always had sex with people that I've been dating. Like, it doesn't have to be like, well, no, all the guys I've had sex with are guys I have been exclusive with. So I feel comfortable enough to share that. Granted, so I like an emotional connection with someone to share that and to a physical side. And in college, I did try Friends with Benefits, kind of with someone. Like, he was someone I knew and I had a crush on, and we went back to his place once and things started getting heated. And before we started, he was like, I'm not looking for anything though. And I was like, oh. And then I was like, oh shit. Like, my first time dealing with this kind of relationship. Because, like, we were friends, we knew each other, and I actually had a crush on him. And I was like, oh, okay, like, sure, like, I'll just enjoy it for what it is. And then we didn't have sex. We did other things, like, made out. And then after that first time, I knew what this relationship was going to be. So I was like, okay. And I felt kind of empowered. So I was like, I hit him up knowing that it is what it is. I'm going to get my needs, and that's it. So the second time we met up and we got a little further, and he said, do you want to have sex? And I go, no. But I think I'm someone that I like to move in gradual steps. And so at that time, I still didn't want to have sex. And I think walking away the next morning, I didn't feel right. It didn't feel right anymore. I was like, I don't think it's meant for me. Like, Friends with Benefits, I can't do this. I get attached, and I like the dude. So I think after that, I stopped kind of like moving forward with those type of relationships. So moving to LA, the only person I really had sex with until, stuff with my boyfriend. And so yeah, and I guess like we were talking about like, you know, experiences that have happened since my boyfriend. I did try out, I guess, like a friends with benefits kind of thing with someone that was part of my life.
Mel has a really uncomfortable face on right now.
Like, how do I talk
Trying
about
so
this?
hard to talk about it.
You know what it is?
It's
just
hard,
like-
it's hard.
It's hard because like I was very firm. I'm like, I'm not going to do this again.
Yeah.
I don't want to do this because like I'm someone that's super sensitive and like all these things. But there's someone in my life that I felt like I was like physically super attracted to. Like there's no denying the fact that I mean, I told you too, like I don't feel this a lot. But then, yeah, we're friends, and then, like, I think you just feel the sexual tension.
Yeah.
I think Janet was like, yeah, Mel, I think we all.
I feel like at this point, from personal experience and also from having a lot of girlfriends, like watching each other in our 20s and 30s, that usually when there's that magnetic energy between you and someone and you guys are going to be around each other, it's going to happen.
Yeah,
like
you
things
can't
are going to
control it.
happen.
Yeah.
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 As much as you try and talk yourself out of it,
Yeah.
it's always going to be there.
Yep.
Yeah, and I remember the moment it happened. I remember the thoughts. I was like, I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe this is happening. Am I really doing this? Because I was so firm. I'm like, this is so not me. But it happened, and I was just like, what? And even he was like, what? I was like, I know. I can't believe this happened. And I felt like it was, to be honest, it was inevitable. It could be one-sided, to be honest, but like I felt such a huge, intense sexual attraction to him. I was like, I kind of like, to be honest, I kind of had to bang this shit out. Like, it is what it is. That sounds so like
Animalistic.
but it felt like that though. It felt so like my animal
Instinct.
kicked in. I was like, oh fuck, I kind of need this. Yeah. So I did it, and then obviously that kind of like opened up conversation as to what is this. Obviously, you know, we were friends. I don't want to fuck this shit up.
But he
But-
did. Just kidding.
What'd you say?
Sorry.
What'd you say?
Literally.
But I think what happened was like I said this, you know, like I actually felt very empowered leaving the first time. I was like, you know what? I feel fine.
Yeah.
I don't.
You're not emotionally attached.
I'm not emotionally attached. Whatever. I could do this again and feel okay.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, then we kind of started exploring that. And I always made it very clear with him. I think in the beginning it was like, oh, yeah, it's just going to be like physical. But I think what happens is that, you know, you start, you know, getting intimate and like talking, you know, after you do it. And then you like connect on a personal level. And then you start become more intimate than physical, right? And so for me, it was like a physical, intimate combination. And so I think with that relationship, it just kind of like developed a little more to a point where it's like, oh shit. Like, I think a part of me deep down knew that I was liking the emotional aspect of it. But at the same time, like, I knew he, like, definitely was not looking for a relationship. But it's like, he said he wasn't, but at the same time, he was like, I'm open to exploring what this can be. So I was like, okay, I'm someone that I don't like to waste time in a sense that, like, I'm not just gonna go into this with nothing being the result. I want an option of maybe it could be something or it just being purely just physical. But to be honest, at that point, like, it wasn't just physical because, like, we were hanging out, kind of. So I was like, okay, there's definitely, like, intimacy involved. And I told him, I said, hey, at any point in time, this feels like it's becoming just fucking and you don't see me in, like, an intimate way or the idea of a relationship cannot be
A possibility.
You let me know and then we'll be done. Because I don't want to get hurt, whatever. And he's like, I got it. I understand. And so, like, yeah, it was a very interesting, it's just navigating this is so difficult sometimes.
That actually
like,
sounds like, I mean, because friends with benefits kind of sounds like it's just for the sex, right?
You know what
and
it
that your
is?
friendship
Yeah.
is separate from that.
but it kind of sounds like friends with possibilities. Like that's what it kinda
Yeah,
sounds like
that's what it
instead.
sounds like too,
Yeah.
and that's really hard to do because then
Yeah.
then you can't compartmentalize like this is a
Right.
potential boyfriend, and so I have to
Yeah.
like emotionally attach myself versus like this is just a hookup.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, which Janet has been able to do with like
Yeah.
her past relationships. Yeah.
Looking back on that like dynamic, I was like, honestly, I am a sensitive type. I do fall easily. How can you not when you're being intimate? It's not just
Yeah,
being physical. You're being intimate with
Yeah.
someone.
No, when you're intimate, and I think even for a lot of women, it's hard to separate the physical from the intimate. And so, like, when it's worked for me is when I haven't seen them too often, right? Or like it's not a consistent thing.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think for me, it's like it's hard to navigate because then like we're friends.
Yeah.
So I think looking back, this could be just completely one-sided again. It could be just me feeling like, okay, maybe there is an emotional connection. Maybe this could be something more. I don't know. But for me, I didn't want to put all my eggs in that one basket. That's why I was like, okay, understanding it is what it is. But at the same time, like in the back of my head, I was like, fuck, I'm enjoying this.
Well, I think there's an aspect of it where too, like I think you might like him, right? Not
Yeah.
just for his physicality, but
Yeah.
I'm thinking about like that one person that I did hook up with that I was not dating, and I like was not emotionally attached because I knew that I didn't want to be with him, and it was just like kind of like a lustful relationship. So for me, it was easy when I was just like, okay, I think we're done. You know?
Yeah.
And for him too, he was like, okay, I think
Yeah.
There's probably parts of you that are kind of like lying to yourself, right? Like telling yourself,
for sure.
like, oh, I'm fine.
Yeah.
But then you're like hiding the real feelings of like, shit, I think I might like this guy.
Yeah, and it's just like you don't want to admit that because it's just like you're gonna come off as like strong, like I'm empowered, and I don't need you kind of thing. And then for me, it's just like the feeling of like fuck, I don't really want to like you, to be honest. It's like it's just like we already agreed on what this was, you know. It's kind of weird. It's a weird like I don't know what it is. But then it's funny because in the beginning it felt so. I always joke around like I felt it's so transactional. In the beginning it was fun since we're friends. I could be honest with you. Hey, I kind of didn't like when you did that in bed. Oh, I like when you do this. So in the beginning, when we started like being more like sexual, I was like, yeah, actually, like I like when you do this more. And I feel like I could be really honest with him because he's like, okay, like I'm not trying to hurt your feelings. Like it is a physical relationship. Let's physically satisfy the best we can with each other. Because for me, I kind of saw it as I'm someone that isn't really sexually active, but this I feel comfortable and I want to actually get to know myself, my body more. And if you're there and I feel comfortable, why not do that? And so I think that was part of that relationship. Trying things out, being okay with like kind of like having fun and like learning about your body. So I think I did gain a positive component from that. But I do think moving forward, honestly, I am the type to get a little attached. And I think all of us saw it coming. I mean, these girls
Literally,
were like,
just getting too many words that are sexual.
Well, but here's the thing also. I think it's like, it is pretty rare to have that animalistic drive towards someone, right? So I kind of feel like when it happens, it's kind of one of those, it's going to
you can't stop it.
You can't stop it. It's going to, but also it's like the fact that it's rare and that you get to experience that is also pretty unique.
I'm happy that you did because I feel like if you didn't, then you would always be wondering what if, right? Like, because there's this like unfilled question and desire. And so I remember, you were going into it and I was like, oh God. Like,
Helen's like, damn it.
Yeah. But like at the same time, like I've been through it too. Yeah. It's better that you try and tap into it to see what it actually is and try to close the books on it.
No, I agree.
Yeah. So
And I don't think I felt this way about anyone before. It's like, it felt inevitable. It was going to happen.
how do you feel now?
Well, obviously, I think moving forward, I kind of know my tendencies a little bit more now. So I don't think I would enter a friends with benefits relationship ever again. I mean, I say this now.
I know.
I know.
We'll be here.
Check in with us in season 6.
7?
Probably the next season. Probably the end of this season.
No. I learned a lot throughout it. I did enjoy it. I'm not gonna lie. I enjoyed it for what it was.
Yeah.
Good.
It kind of put me through hell a little bit because I'm such a feeler and emotional person. It's just like it just fuck with your mind. We're like, all right, we're being intimate. We're kind of like hanging out, and I kind of like it, but I can't have this.
Yeah.
My other side is also thinking, another thing I battle with friends with benefits. Obviously, you guys, it's called friends with benefits. This person's already your friend, so you guys get along to some level, right? Some degree. But now you're throwing in physical act, and now you're throwing in intimacy.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, I wonder if it's tricking your mind to liking someone when you actually don't.
Like the physical aspect is reinforcing
the emotional
intimacy.
kind of like, I don't know. It's like sometimes like, I think I told you ladies, it's just like, I enjoy being intimate with him. I enjoy being physical with him. But like, I honestly don't know if I like him. I might like doing these things with him. That doesn't mean I actually like the dude. Doesn't mean we're compatible.
Ooh, what is it? I've heard a quote where it's like you can love someone but not like them. And then same you can
Like someone I love.
Yeah.
I don't know actually.
Because love, or maybe love is not the right word here, but it's like that you feel some sort of like deep connection with someone, but you maybe don't like them as a person, right? Like you don't maybe like some of their values or some of their characteristic traits or things like that, but you can still feel this like lustful, not lustful, but like a deeper other type of connection.
Yeah.
Complicated.
Now also really learning that I do actually want to be in a relationship. I've always been the girl to date for long term. So I think right now it's like, okay, well at this point, like I don't want to waste any more time. So I did that because I feel like my animal side was like, rawr, I need to fulfill this.
Yeah.
And I did it. And so now it's just like, okay, now what's next?
I feel like for me, I'm like, I am looking for something serious eventually, but I've had a pretty big pause in my dating life the last like year because I've been so focused on like work and other things. And so now I'm kind of like in this new phase where I'm exploring dating, and I think I'm going to be okay with like starting off with casual dating first, go into that.
That means there'll be more stories coming from Jen in the next couple of weeks.
Oh my God.
And
pressure.
Mel. Both of y'all. All right. If you want to go on a date with one of these single ladies,
Did we do this already?
agentbossgirl@gmail.com. Send us an email, subject line, who you want to date.
All right, I think there's so much we could talk about in terms of sex, but I think we covered like, a pretty like fair amount today,
Yes.
talking about, our first times, how we even heard about sex to like, our current like sexual behavior styles, which is like, that was a lot to unpackage and reveal, to be honest. I think we shared a lot, actually.
We did. Even stuff I haven't talked about ever.
Like
Yeah.
the peanut butter stuff. What the fuck is
yeah.
that?
Don't focus on that. Let's focus on Ice Cube. Yeah.
Oh, okay. A ball.
A ball?
You imagine you had sex against a ball or something?
Oh, a wall.
A wall. Well, I heard that statement way differently in my head. But yeah, so we hope you guys enjoyed this episode about sex. We just want to encourage you guys to ask yourself, what do you value in terms of sex? I think that's the main thing I took away when I started being sexually active is like, obviously, if you value your body, it's sacred. That's going to help you determine how you navigate, how you become sexual with someone, right? So don't ever forget that part about yourself. And if you have any stories, we'd love to hear about it. Maybe you're kind of too afraid to share with your girlfriends, like email us at asianbossgirl@gmail.com. We want to hear about it. Don't worry, we'll keep it confidential. Thank you again for listening to this episode about sex.
Make sure you protect yourself.
Yes. Protect yourself, educate yourself, and, do some deep thinking about your own personal preferences with sex. Because sex is something that you do with a partner, but it's also something that helps you get to know yourself better.
So at the end of the day, sex should be something you enjoy. So just remember that and value yourself and what you want with your sexual journeys.
And also, if you are not comfortable with where you are, make sure you know to say no. You can find us at Asian Boss Girl. We are on Instagram. We are all over the social platforms. You can download our podcast on Spotify, from our website, iTunes,
All over the
other
platforms.
places.
Yeah.
And leave us a rating on iTunes. It actually helps us out a lot. We've been getting on some of the charts, podcasting charts lately, and that's because of your ratings and the feedback that iTunes, I guess, receives. So thank you for doing that. Please continue doing so.
Yes. And we also have a segment called Dear ABG, where we're taking in some of your phone calls and your voicemails. If you want to leave comments or questions for us, we'll address them in some of the future episodes. The number to call is 213-262-8776. Thank you guys so much for this episode, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Bye.